I was talking to you about that survey that they did of Colorado voters. We were talking about lunch about that. I serve on the Town of Morrison Board of Trustees, and so that allows me to be a member of the Board of Directors of DRCOG, and I get to go to these Colorado Municipal League type events, and I went to one, the District 3 of the Colorado Municipal League, and so there are elected officials and town staff from towns all around District 3, and everyone introduced themselves and described the problems their town was facing. And it was a litany that was repeated over and over again. We have traffic problems. We have air quality problems. We have affordable housing problems. And we have water quality and water availability problems. And then they go, and our strategy for addressing these problems is growth. And I'm just shaking my head. And so I stood up. I stunk up the room. It was like I ripped one. I said, okay, so air quality, water quality and quantity, traffic, affordable housing, all of these things are aggravated by growth. And I swear to God, you could have heard a pin drop when I said that, and they all moved away from me like I was, anathema to something that had been sort of implanted in their amygdala about growth. I don't think they think about it, but when you're saying you're going to give me tools, I didn't feel like I had the next step, how to communicate to these people like, you're zombies, you don't understand, your solution is actually going to make things worse.
So it looked like this was done by the Rasmussen Reports and Numbers USA Education and Research Foundation in June. The long and short of it is a majority of Colorado voters seem to be worrying that Colorado is becoming too crowded. And so some of these statistics that I thought were most interesting. 63% of Colorado voters want state and local governments to restrict development to make it more difficult for people to move to Colorado from other states. Majority, 53%, want the federal government to reduce annual immigration from other countries to slow down Colorado's population growth. 61% of Colorado voters believe the state has already developed too much. Only 8% think Colorado has developed too little. These are interesting numbers to me.
Yeah, pretty significant. These are the people that would email you later and say, yeah, I didn't have the guts to say what you said, Paul.
Yeah, but there weren't that many in that room of elected officials and town staff. Yeah. That's the electorate at large. So what causes the disproportionate representation of pro-growth developer types at a Colorado Municipal League meeting?
That reminds me of a great newspaper cover, the Colorado Springs Independent. They had a great cover years ago, and the headline on it was, "The Best City Council Money Can Buy."
Oh, boy. Very disappointing.
Where does the money come from? The growth boosters.
Did you feel that when you ran for office?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I wasn't getting any of that. But I never thought for a minute I would get any of the growth boosters money. But the real estate development community made sure that my opponent, was much better funded.
And then they can do getting on to local government, which I'm in now, probably because I'm lucky I'm in a small town. I just have to talk to 10 people and I can win an election. Is an education that's like a fire hose. It's just astounding. Like we have these tax incentive financing where a developer can approach a town and say, annex me, change the zoning, and we'll build a bunch of commercial establishments, but I want 2% of the sales tax for 10 years, 50 years, 100 years.
To pay for the quote-unquote public improvements.
To pay for those public improvements. To me, that is legalized corruption. And it's a growth-inducing corruption.
Well, it's easy to get that in a world where everybody believes that growth is the answer to their problems. So let's circle back to this survey about Colorado voters being ready for their elected officials to stop growth rather than pursue it. Is it because they've just had enough of the long commutes and the dirty air and unaffordable housing, or is it because they're starting to be scared because we're having some real honest coverage of the freshwater crisis in the American West? The Colorado River, you can't go 2 days without seeing a news story about the dismal level of the reservoirs on the Colorado River and the big sacrifices that states and communities are being asked to make in order to somehow keep water in that river, and more honest coverage of climate disruption. Could it be that the people are recognizing that growth is a shitstorm. I'm trying to cuss as many times as I can in this episode. That's 3 so far, I think.
Yeah.
You're right. Running for president or whatever state office we encourage you to run for, or congressman. I wouldn't mind if Colorado Springs got a new congressman. It's a coalition. There are people like us that see the big global picture and think that that message is good. There are people that are stuck in traffic that are just self-absorbed and they wouldn't like to be stuck in traffic. There are people that sort of see the regional picture and the depleting Colorado River and they go, that's going to make things harder in a lot of different ways in a lot of different places. That's bad. So I think it's a coalition of people. Some people see it at all across the board, but I think some people see it globally. Some people see it only in their own personal world. So that'd be my take on it. But it is interesting. 3 out of 5 of them are like, I think I'm done with growth in Colorado. I don't think it's good for us anymore. That, I think, is the big take-home message. And in your history of having done this, is this poll unusual? Are these results really different than stuff you've seen before?
It doesn't surprise me to have a pretty good portion of the public complaining about growth. I don't even recall if I've ever seen a poll where they asked them, do you want your public officials to rein that in?
I believe they had a question about population in there. And I think there was something of a disconnect in the responses because they said on average like 60% that they wanted less growth. They wanted less density. They wanted all the symptoms of high population to be dealt with somehow. But then when they're asked, should we decrease the population of Colorado? No.
Yeah, 31% want it to grow more slowly. 27% want the population to stay about the same. So that's over half of the people right there aren't in the camp of
They're not in the
reducing
growth camp. Okay.
So what percent wanted it to actually shrink? There was a significant number.
30%.
32%. Yeah.
So more than half wanted flat or down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More than half wanted flat.
And we
or
should
up.
count that as a win.
Yeah. But I think people aren't ready yet. I guess 32% of the people may be ready yet to even envision a shrinking population. Most people just can't even imagine they're going to see that ever.
I think we're seeing here is that they're seeing the writing on the wall now. And I think you pointed out the Colorado River. I was just there this summer. I went to Lake Powell and saw the 100-foot bathtub ring around that lake, which is down by 75%. Numbers are coming out that no longer can be ignored.